Oh, I suppose I should actually be at the top. Alrighty, so if you're checking this out, that means you want a better and more deep breakdown of the Sauron Lord of the Rings deck list. So I'm going to go through it as quickly as I can possibly do so. But there's 100 cards, I know, minus lands, whatever, but still, there's 100 cards here, so there's quite a bit. So this is going to take a while, so yeah. But anyway, we're going to get there. So I'm not going to talk much about the lands. It's funny how much money the lands are. It's only a bunch of basics for the most part. An exotic shortened command tower and a buried ruin. Doesn't seem like that should be $12 or nearly $13. That's strange, but whatever. And sorceries, enchantments. Enchantments. There's only 3 of them, so let's go with enchantments. Friction Reclamation. We can return a creature from our grave to our hand by paying 2 mana and 2 life for a 1 mana enchantment. Pretty good. It's not to the field, which is a little worse, obviously, but still, there are cases where we want that. So it's nice to have it, especially when our commander dies. We kind of want it to go to the graveyard instead of our command zone, because even though, yes, this is a command tax in a sense, we, like, if it dies the second time or whatever, third time, fourth time, blah blah blah, at least we're only cumulatively playing 1 command tax and 2 life any other time it dies or whatever. If it gets exiled, that's a bit different, but again, we can't avoid that completely, so we do the best we can. Zombie infestation, since it's there right now. We can discard 2 cards to create a zombie. So we want to put our creatures into our grave, and we want a free way to do that. And this enables that. And it's a permanent way to do it, which is really good because, again, there are a few instant sorceries that are put in here that kind of put stuff in our grave, but we want a consistent effect, not just a one-off effect. And I did pick most of the ones with flashback because, again, getting that effect again is just super good. So, the Tortured Existence, we choose a card to discard, and then we choose a card in your graveyard or creature, and return it to our hand. So this offers certain shenanigans, especially for our commanders in the grave, which is kind of where we want it a lot of the time, when it's not just like on the field or in our hand or whatever, or in the command zone. We wanted it in the grave so that we can use this to discard cards and get our commander to our hand and cast our commander for fairly cheap. It is another sort of command tax, but at least it's only 1, so that's a lot better than a lot of other sort of taxes. I think there's one non-mana rock or mana effect in the mana rock in the artifacts. I'm gonna get it. Which is Swiftfoot but Boots, I think. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm not really gonna talk about the artifacts because the rest of the artifacts are just decent mana rocks that are in our colors, or things that make mana effectively. And we all know Swiftfoot Boots is pretty decent. So yeah, not much to say there. Sorceries, Blasphemous Act, kill all the things effectively. And yeah, mostly it's for 1 mana, so that's really good. So that's what we want. Deep Analysis draws us some cards, has Flashback, which again, pretty good for us. Same with Faithless Looting, draws us some cards, makes us discard cards, but again, we want mostly our creatures in our grave so we can kind of cheat them out with our commander's effect. Again, the flashback helps us out in certain circumstances. Sometimes when we're early game and haven't got our lands or mana or whatever, and I did only put 36 lands in here, but still, it should be alright. But still, it's tough to make cuts sometimes. Living Death, effectively, it kills everything on the field and brings everything that was in the graveyard before everything died onto the field. So we're gonna stock our graveyard. So getting all of our creatures back from the graveyard for 5 mana is really good. Plus it kills all of our opponent's stuff. Yes, it might kill some of our own stuff, but our deck is built around recurring things, so we just probably don't care because we're probably gonna get so much stuff out of our grave that it's just super worth it. Mystic Retrieval, now some things like Blasphemous Act, Living Death, other spells that don't have flashback, etc., or whatever, are extremely useful to us in certain circumstances, so we often need to get them back, especially when we accidentally just mill them. So having something that can retrieve them, pretty useful. At least sometimes it can be pretty useful. I'm not going to go through all the removal spells that are here. So I'm just going to move on to some of the more other looting effects like Rachitic Revelation. Again, looting's really good for us, and flashback's pretty good because, again, we get to do it again. Same with Desperate Ravings. We have to discard a random card. We don't get to choose. But, like, mostly we'll probably discard something of relevance. It is better to know what we're discarding or milling or whatever. So it's not the best, but still it's okay, so that's fine. Chemist Insight Jumpstart's pretty much similar to Flashback, so I thought that works well with what we're doing. It just draws us more cards. We need some decent-ish card draw. I do think that's one thing I think this deck does lack a bit. But again, like, we're kind of getting card advantage by stocking out graveyards, so yeah, tough to sort of say. Ancient Brass Dragon, when it hits a player, we roll a d20, and then we put any number of target creatures with that much mana value onto our battlefield under our control. So that's pretty nice. So we can even get creatures from our opponent's graveyards with this. Not that that's super relevant. Sometimes it will be, but we'll mostly be getting our stuff because, again, we're built around stocking our grave. So we're gonna have stuff to get back throughout the game. And again, when we cheat this in with our commander, it's pretty decent. It doesn't have haste, but we can give it haste. So there are some other things going on there. Copper Dragon, when it hits, we roll a d20, make that many treasures. So that's real good because it's free mana. Again, to a degree at least. So if we make... I think our command is 8, is it? I think. So if we make 8, we've probably paid for this as a fact, or our commander's effect, so that we can, do it again type thing. Silver Dragon, roll the d20 when it hits, draw cards equal to the result. So again, we want card draw. And cheating it in is good from the grave. Anger, it's probably one of the 2 cards that we actually want to keep in our grave because we want mass haste for all of our things. So that's pretty darn nice. Archon of Cruelty, when it enters or attacks, target opponent sacks a creature or planeswalker, discards a card, loses 3 life, and then we draw a card and gain 3 life. So this is a nasty card. And especially when we were cheating it in with our commander, yeah, it can be real nasty. So, yeah, I think that's pretty good for this deck. Burning Rune Demon, tutors for 2 things and put them... If you do... Oh no. An opponent chooses one that goes to her hand and the other goes to her grave. So, yeah. Whatever. But it's still 2 tutors... that 2 things. One goes to her grave and one goes to her hand. So that's alright. Doesn't matter. Because we'll pick 2 cards that we know we can get back anyway. So opponents won't have much real choice. So the Horde Dragon. This is a pretty cool one. This is from the new set. Or the new commander set. Costs X less, where X is the number of artifacts an opponent controls. So that's kind of cool. But, we're already going to cheat it in, so maybe it's not that relevant. Though it could have happened, so never know. But Flying Trample Haste, I don't even know if it needs trample, honestly, but whatever. When it hits, we make treasures equal to the number of artifacts that player controls. So that's real good. So if we get like 7, 8 treasures from this thing, even once, we're like golden. We're happy. So it's kind of dockside as a big flyer, but it's, yeah, costs less, blah blah blah. So it's interesting. China, he discards creatures, and we can cast other creatures from our grave. If our commander's in the grave and we can cast it, that's what we want to do. Because we want to get that free horde, the amass. We want to get the mill. Even if we think we know what we want from our grave, the mill could give us something better. Again, so yeah, that's really good. Of course, if our commander's not in our grave, not as good, but still, that's what we're kind of trying to do with it. So yeah. Constipated Sphinx. If an opponent draws, we draw 2 cards. Or we can choose to draw 2 cards. And it's just a big flyer, so it's nice to cheat it out. So that's fine. The Connoisseur, when it enters, we tutor something to our grave. So that's alright. Not the most amazing, but still, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to stock our graveyard, and we're trying to put very specific, like big beaters that'll just kill our opponents pretty quickly, or just give us huge amounts of value, so that we can win the game in some way. Disciple of Bolus, this one might seem a little left field here, but we can use it to sack our commander and draw a bunch of cards, and that's something we want. I purposefully didn't put the no max hand size cards in here because we want to discard our big beefy things into our grave so that we can cheat them into play and get extra value. So this is pretty good with that. It's pretty good with a few things that have ETBs that we can just get back with our commander, or have haste and a good attack or damage trigger or whatever. So yeah. Italy, I've never been a huge fan of it, but it gives us that free value of getting something off the top of each player's deck. Of course, again, our deck is going to be more synergistic to what we're doing. So, I don't know, unless we're just facing a bunch of other graveyard style decks that cheat stuff into play. Yeah, I don't know, but whatever. We'll get something cool off it, maybe. Felden, like, we're gonna have all of these things in our grave that are big and beefy, or even just tutor a thing or whatever. And again, even that is pretty decent. So getting that extra ETB trigger, or getting that token copy of a creature for 1 turn for 3 mana is real good. Like, you copy the Horde Dragon and you just like, bam, I get all of these treasures, or any of the other dragons, big beefy things. You know, you're just gonna get huge value off of it. So, well worth the time. Flair, when stuff ETBs from our grave, it deals that much damage to any target. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Warstorm Surge, but this isn't too bad, especially since it does it itself, so that's okay. Though I can't remember the dragon that does it, essentially, but that could have been good too, but still, this also does it itself, so don't know. Plus, it has Undying, so it's freaking hard to get rid of sometimes. Um, Lamia, tutor something to our graveyard, and spells from grave cost one less to cast. I guess that works with flashback, but I don't think we have much that we actually cast from our grave. Garuda. Garuda is dumb. I don't know how many people like play this as a commander. So many. It's such a dumb card. Mills some cards. And then we can take one of the cards. And as long as it's a even mana cost creature and put it onto our field. I didn't really look at how many even things we have, but whatever. That's fine. If we steal somebody else's thing too, that's fine. But again, our stuff is going to be more synergistic. Um, Having Ghoul Lich, we can cast creatures from our grave, so that's alright. And then he gains their abilities, so that's kind of cool. But this is one of the few things that does cast from our grave, so it's pretty useful in that way. Lord Xander, he's a house, especially when you're cheating him in. He enters, someone loses half their hand. When he attacks, a player mills half their deck. When he dies, an opponent sacrifices half their permanents. So he's nasty. Like, you think Ward 1 is bad. Like, this guy has Ward sacrifice half your stuff. Like, it's effectively. So he is super nasty. I mean, if you exile him, I guess he doesn't. But still, like, that's so nasty. And there's so many nasty cards here, which just are fun. Mishra, I do have the other half here somewhere, so we'll get to it in a minute. Not that amazing until you morph him with the other half, but still not terrible. So I still think it can be good. I think it's way better though when you've got the meld. Molten Primordial, we can steal one of each of our opponent's things and get them onto our field with haste, which pretty good. And again, cheating that in is nasty. The Primal Tide can't be counted. This is the only thing that says no max hand size, so hopefully it doesn't bite us too hard. But hopefully, if it does, it bites our opponents harder. So when an opponent casts a non-creature, we draw a card. And we can discard cards to flicker him effectively. So that protects him. And again, we want to discard cards, especially when we have no max hand size. We want to keep getting our bodies into the grave. Up next, Nicky B. Answers everyone or their opponent's discard. Then he flips into a planeswalker, which is a pretty powerful planeswalker. So, which also, whoops, which also returns creatures from or planeswalkers from the grave to our field. Oh boy. So that's real good. Again, we've got to cast our commander, so we wouldn't use it on our commander. We would use it on other stuff though, but we still have to try to tick it up to protect it. So, but it's pretty darn good if you can. The familiar reduces our spells, so ramps us, and we can regen in it. That's okay. The Gear Hulk kills the thing and has menace, so that's okay. It's not the greatest, but it's decent. Can chip in for some damage. Nice evasion. That's alright. Olivia, I did a deck tech on her a while back. But she's so cool in this deck. She returns stuff from her grave, tapped in at attacking. So that's just super nasty with some of the stuff we've got. It is a vampire and blah blah blah, all that stuff, but still, that's real cool. And we can still get those things back, afterward when she dies and when they die and stuff, so it's alright. Law Mage taps to tutor a thing into our grave. That's okay. Again, we've got to fill that grave to, fuel our plan. The Amalgam, it's basically a counter spell sitting in our hand. So we want to probably put this in the grave itself for the most part, unless we sack our commander or something. Don't know. Tough to say sometimes, depending on the board state or whatever, but still can be very good to counter things opponents are doing, especially like exile effects, etc. See, I told you I had the other half, the Dragon Engine. By itself, again, not that amazing. Better when you meld it with what's his name? So yeah, but we do have a few things that tutor things into our grave, etc. Mostly to our grave, actually. One thing that doesn't, but that's a way we can get this happening. These cards that only really work well together and that sort of thing. So, yeah, we can find ways to actually do it. The War Mammoth, I thought that the cycling and being able to destroy some artifacts was okay. Because again, cycling's instance and speed. And just putting this 9/6 trample in the grave seems alright. It's not the most amazing, but still, that's alright, because again, we'll cheat it in, we'll mill some cards or whatever, etc. So we're just going to get more choices, etc. anyway, and we can destroy some artifacts along the way, so it's pretty good. Our one tutor that doesn't tutor the graveyard, Rune Scar, that's pretty decent. It can help us find some of the other stuff that we need to sort of get the engine going. And it's not that unfair, even if we cheated it in, because again, we're gonna, have to contend with probably have used all our mana anyway, so probably not gonna get it that turn anyway. So yeah. We have two Sheoldreds. We have the newest Sheoldred, enters, each opponent sacks a thing. So that's alright. It flips over and it does some nasty things, and then it flips back effectively. So I don't know whether, I think it actually re-enters because it exiles it. Yeah, yeah. So the saga finishes, um, you transform it again and sack more things for your opponents, which is oof. Plus, when you finish that saga, you get all their stuff from their graves, so that's real powerful. Um, yeah. Shieldred, the other Shieldred, the OG. Swamp Walk, not too bad. Evasion. Um, Returning stuff from our grave at our upkeep, pretty decent, and making our opponents sack. Those are pretty good, especially when we cheated it in. Alright, Shriekmore kills the thing that's not black and not an artifact. That's fine. Again, we want to kill things with creatures, so this is kind of our way of doing that kind of thing. So Conrad pings our opponents when stuff goes into graves or goes out of graves, so pretty darn powerful for a deck like this. Thaxamunda! He has haste, which is nice. He's a 6/6/6 with no real evasion, but whatever. We make someone sack their creature and buff him up. So he's gonna get nasty real quick when people don't have much stuff. Entomber, another tutor that tutors to our grave. And Wonder gives all of our stuff flying from the grave. So that is it here for this one, guys. Pretty long one. You see why I don't want to do these anymore on the channel, because they just take forever. So hope you guys did enjoy this. If you want to see me keep doing it, yeah, let me know. Let me know what you think of the deck. Write your thoughts down there in the description, and yeah, hope to see you here in the next one.